You know, when I first came into this world, I feel like life was good, like it was all good, like everything was awesome, right? And then when I turned 5 years old, I feel like all of that changed radically. I found out that my mother had cancer, pancreatic cancer. And within just a few short months after finding that out, she was gone. I never saw her again. That's when life became scary. That's when life became dark. And then, just a few months after my mom died, my dad goes out and remarries this woman that he hardly knew, who had all these unresolved issues. And all I was told was, this is your new mom. These are your new brothers. This is your new sister. It was like I didn't even have a choice in the matter. That's just how life was going to be. My father ended up staying married to that woman for about 7 years. 7 of the worst years of my life. During those 7 years, I was verbally abused, physically abused, and even sexually abused. By the time I entered middle school, my life was so full of anger, hurt, fear. I hated my home life. I hated my stepmother. I just wanted out. I just wanted out. Whether it was run away or take my own life. I'm in middle school, but I got so much junk going on inside of me that I'm just acting out, doing all this crazy stuff, breaking into houses, vandalizing, stealing, skipping school, getting in fights. By the time I was in 7th grade, I was just completely addicted to pornography. It's like my drug of choice, my way of escape, my fantasy world. Here's the really crazy part about our family, is that every person in my family, including myself, all of us claim to be a Christian. Every one of us said that Jesus was our Savior. Every one of us prayed to ask Jesus in our heart. I probably prayed to ask Jesus in my heart growing up like 3,000 times. But nothing was ever any different in my life. Nothing ever changed. I only got worse and worse. My life was a mess. Thankfully, when I was in 8th grade, my father made the decision to leave my stepmother, to divorce her. Man, I was so excited. I was so thankful. And I went to live with my older brother. I hadn't seen him for like 6 years. You know, when I went to live with my brother, it really helped me. It was a better environment for me to be in, but it didn't do anything to fix what was wrong with me on the inside. There was still an emptiness. There was a darkness. There was anger. There was still all the hurt. There was still all the addiction. I could not get out of the darkness. The darkness controlled me. Then one day, out of nowhere, God showed up. I'm not even kidding, out of nowhere. I'm in a chapel service, like in 11th grade. I'm sitting with all my friends, my girlfriend's with me, and I'm just sitting there with this attitude like, oh brother, bless me if you can. I've heard it all before. And this preacher got up, I'll never forget. His name was Rick Gage, and he was just preaching the gospel. He was telling the old story about Jesus. The pastor's talking about who Jesus is and how he died on the cross for our sins so that we can be forgiven, so that we can have a relationship with God. But I'd heard it all. I heard it my whole life. But something crazy was happening that day, in that moment, in that chapel service. It was like God was talking directly to me through that preacher. My heart, it was like God was pulling and tugging at me. I was so uncomfortable. I was fidgeting. I was like arguing with God. I am saved. I said the prayer, like, get off my back. But He wouldn't stop. God just kept piercing me with everything this preacher was saying. And I remember just some of the things that that preacher said that dug right into me. It just convicted me. Are you really saved? Does God really live in you? Has there been a change in your life? Have you surrendered your life to God? Has your faith gone from your head to your heart? I had never surrendered my life to Jesus. My life had never been changed. But God kept working on me that day. He kept pulling at me. By the end of that message, I was up out of my seat. I remember walking to the front of that chapel. I didn't care what anybody thought. I just knew I needed to get right with God. No more games. No more hypocrisy. It was time to get real. I don't even remember what I prayed that day, but I know that whatever I prayed to God that day, I meant it. I surrendered that day. I was like, God, I'm here. All my junk, all my darkness, all my mess, here I am. My faith in Jesus, it went from like here to here. It became real to me. That's the day that everything changed. I'm convinced that if God hadn't intervened in my life on that day back in 11th grade, that right now, I'd either be dead or I'd be in prison. That was like over 25 years ago. And here I am today, and the darkness no longer rules my life. God has been able to take my story with all my junk, my mess, and use that to impact the lives of others. I'm able to share how my hardships, my pain, my suffering, how God has used that now for something good, to bring hope and healing to other people. My name is Jason George, and by the grace of God, I've been forgiven of all of my sins. And by the grace of God, I've been able to forgive those who have sinned against me.